The Liberals came into power in 2015 with a lot of promises. Crime is up, housing prices are way up, life is becoming less affordable, rent is way up. Everything is more expensive because of inflation. We've run up more debt actually in the last 8 years than we did in the entire country's history up until 2015, and people are feeling the impact of that. There is much more division and social tension, from problems of Slamophobia. Things are not actually improving under this government.
I'm Pierre Garnett.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's great
Pleasure
to be with
and
you.
honor to have you here. Welcome to Toronto. How are you liking your trip so far?
It's been great, very busy. I'm here for about a week and meeting with lots of different communities. I feel like I'm going around and around the world every time I'm in Toronto here.
Right.
Meeting with people from Pakistan, from Africa, from somewhere in Europe, from East Asia. It's all in the same day.
It's a beautiful bouquet here, right? You get to meet every single community, and I'm very happy to see that you're reaching out to Pakistani community as well. And I know that you have been meeting with a lot of groups and community leaders. So how's that experience so far?
It's been great. Both of my wife's parents were born in Karachi.
Oh wow!
So they're a Pakistani Goan community that the Goan community kind of spread out during colonial times, and Karachi was where their family was at the time of partition, and her parents both immigrated, one as a child, one as an adult. So yeah, I've got a certain particular connection to events in Pakistan, and I follow a bit closer than some other places. So,
cool.
And I know just Pakistan's history and heritage as being a place with very rich pluralism and diversity, lots of different communities, and I hope to be able. I haven't had a chance to go there yet, but I hope to.
We want to take you there for sure. We want to take you and want to show you around. You would love Karachi, you would love Lahore, and you'll see how multicultural that country is as well. And we love people from who comes out and just get to know our country. And I think it's good for Pakistan as well when we have politicians from here coming to Pakistan, because then they can have a first-hand experience and they can understand what the country is all about. And so far, I think we have a great relationship with Pakistan. And I hope when you guys come in a government and make the majority, we'll have a better relationship with Pakistan. How do you see that when you guys come in power?
I mean, let's be blunt about the fact that Pakistan as a nation faces a lot of challenges around poverty to a greater extent than we have here. There's the big floods recently, and we were working on that at the Foreign Affairs Committee, pushing the Canadian response in terms of helping that. So, but I think there's a lot of ways that Canada can benefit from the relationship at the same time.
Of course.
There are always opportunities to learn through dialogue and benefit from closer relationships, and hopefully we can help support Pakistan in engaging some of those challenges, and we can also benefit from
of course,
from
and
that
I think
well.
from the current government, usually most of the Pakistani community, we're majorly concerned about two issues. One is trade between Canada and Pakistan, and the other is immigration issues. Violent. We have been constantly. They've been playing with the community that we can open the visa office. We're going to make the process faster. How do you guys look upon that part?
The immigration system, I would say, has become a mess in general. Wait time is far too long. Inconsistencies. Major frustrations. People just trying to bring members of their family to visit and wanting to do everything right, and just being frustrated by that process. When you have cases of refugees that are trying to be sponsored, you got years and years of delay when people are potentially in vulnerable situations. So every part of the immigration system, economic, family, refugee, we're seeing a lot of frustration.
Even the student
a lot of
visas,
inconsistency. Exactly, a major issue in a lot of people's minds right now. And students were given fraudulent acceptance letters, and the government appears not to have noticed and to have given them visas anyways, and then come back years later and blame the students for it when the government gave them visas on the basis of fraudulent letters that the students didn't know were fraudulent.
These were major issues when we had a lot of students coming from India as well.
It
was crazy for them. For Pakistan, one of the major issues is the students are not getting visas at all.
Right.
Because it's being delayed a lot.
This is one of the issues. I was on the immigration committee previously.
Oh, nice.
The inconsistencies in terms of acceptance and refusal rates between different countries. So there are certain countries, Pakistan, also a lot of countries in Francophone Africa had much higher refusal rates.
Exactly.
And I know that this is an issue actually that bleeds over and negatively impacts our foreign policy. You talk about the kind of relationships we have with other countries. We can't have relationships with other countries if we don't have the opportunity for that back and forth
Absolutely.
travel. I mean, reasonable checks and balances,
Right.
of course.
Of course, yeah. But the reasonable is the key word here.
Exactly.
It has to be
Exactly.
reasonable, and it has to be fair and equitable as well, right?
100%.
And I recently heard that you're working really hard on this human rights bill.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that a bit?
Bill C-281 is a bill I'm seconding. It's proposed by my colleague Philip Lawrence, Conservative MP from the Peterborough area. And this bill does not name specific countries or situations. Okay, it's about shifting the way the Canadian government engages with human rights issues in general at a global level, right? So it makes a number of changes to kind of the infrastructure of government on human rights. It requires government to report annually to Parliament on what it's doing to advance human rights, and include in that information about prisoners of conscience who face arbitrary detention, for whose release the Government of Canada is actively working. It also creates a mechanism whereby someone could be nominated for sanctions under the Magnitsky Act. If someone's involved in violating human rights, they could be nominated for sanctions. So it gives individuals, communities, an opportunity to bring the names of those that are involved in violence or oppression to a parliamentary committee and recommend that they be considered for sanctions, and they could pass a motion. The government would have to provide a response one way or the other. So these are some practical tools that make it easier for communities to advocate for justice and human rights. There's a couple other provisions. One of them I'll just mention is around cluster munitions. Cluster munitions are essentially bombs of bombs, right? So they're very indiscriminate, and they have a horrific impact on civilians. Not the same as, but similar in their impact to landmines. Right. And so this bill, it builds on previous work done to ban cluster munitions, but it goes further and seeks to ban investment by Canadians in cluster munitions. So a number of different measures in this human rights bill that, again, would apply everywhere and seek to advance human rights globally. And it's going to go to a final vote in the House of Commons on June the 7th, and we hope to see it become law shortly.
Yeah. So when you talk about, just so the risk can be like much more clear, is that when you say nominating, so who nominates? Like the community has a bit better and stronger voice. So let's say if the community has a concern about human rights issues in certain country or certain areas or cities. So how would it work? Like?
Magnitsky sanctions are targeted sanctions for those that are involved in human rights abuses. It's a tool the government can use, but it's a tool that this government has unfortunately used in a very limited way. The process that we've put in this bill is a parliamentary trigger. If a parliamentary committee, say the Foreign Affairs Committee, passes a motion recommending that a particular individual or a group of individuals be considered for sanctions, the government then has to provide a response back indicating whether they've sanctioned that person and why or why not, so providing an explanation. So the process then, individuals can engage with parliamentarians on particular committees and say, here's a situation, this person is inciting violence, this person is participating in pogroms or genocide, they should be sanctioned, and that name can be put forward through the committee process.
So it will give the accountability.
Exactly.
Because then somebody needs to answer why or why not.
Totally. This is, you think about this largely as a human rights accountability bill.
Right.
It's about
That's
strengthening
how I see this
the
right now.
accountability framework around international human rights.
Because as you say, that's how I feel right now, that either we use this very limited or very biased. So I think when the public has the power to come out and nominate things and talk to their MPs about these things and bring it forward, so at least they will get an answer that if it's being done or not done or why not. And I think that we need that kind of transparency in our government. And apart from this, now we see the elections maybe coming soon, and we hope to see you guys in government. How you guys are reaching out to Pakistani community? Because the community here are very much interested to getting to know the Conservative Party. They wanted to know the stand. And then, as you know, in past there has been some hiccups, but we see that there's the bridges are being built again. So what do you have to say about that?
Liberals came into power in 2015 with a lot of promises about various things that they would do. Every community, I think every individual, is looking at the trajectory of the country over the last 8 years. Crime is up, housing prices are way up, life is becoming less affordable, rent is way up. Everything is more expensive because of inflation. We've run up more debt actually in the last 8 years than we did in the entire country's history up until 2015, and people are feeling the impact of that. There is much more, I think, division and social tension, from Slamophobia. These, despite, I think, good intentions by all political actors, things are not actually improving under this government. So if you say, what has been the performance of this government? What are the results they've been achieved? over the last 8 years. This government is not working.
I know, and I'm glad you used the word Islamophobia, because since 2015 till now, the Islamophobia is on rise.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of words, there's been a lot of speeches. We are working very closely on it, we're researching on it, but nothing is being done on that. Like, what do you think about that? So
if you set yourself up as being committed to fighting a problem, and the problem keeps getting worse while you're in charge, I don't want to say it's their fault necessarily, but while they've ostensibly been fighting this problem, I mean, where has the trajectory been? Wait to see the particulars of what we're going to propose as far as platform goes. But Conservatives are very focused on engaging with the community, understanding what the problems and challenges are, and then trying to actually solve them. Right. So this is what I try to do. Is I'm here in Toronto, spending the week meeting with people, talking to people. But if all I do is come have conversations, and then I go on my merry way and do what I was going to do anyways, then I'm not actually moving the needle forward. I think what helps, the right thing to do in terms of representation, but also engagement with communities is for me to listen and say, what are the priorities that I can then take to Ottawa and implement. Conservatives being sincerely results oriented, also willing to grow and change and say, like, where have we not engaged effectively in the past, and how can we improve on that. Like, I can tell you, our leader, Pierre is committed to taking a very inclusive approach to that. He is in Toronto all the time, and I know the Pakistani community is everywhere in the country, not just here, but in particular coming to the major centers where we don't have as many seats, but where we want to grow and engage the communities here. One thing I would share with your listeners about our leader is that he's an incredibly intellectually curious person. He wants to learn. He wants to know more. He's very smart. He's very knowledgeable. But he's one of these people that always wants to learn and grow more. And I know a big part of that has been his engagement with different communities and learning from them. I'm really excited about the direction of that trajectory. I think people are looking for change, and I think we can offer Canadians results. We can offer Canadians that we will achieve results that they haven't seen in the last 8 years.
That's what the Canadian we're looking for, and as when we talk about a Canadian and Pakistani origin, and that's what we need right now. I personally think that we need to have more reach out from the Conservative Party towards the community, because the community is willing, and community wants to learn more about the party as well. And I think it goes vice versa. Like, the party gets to know the community, and community gets to know the party. The community basically has a lot of concerns at this moment. Like, as we talked about immigration, that place is gone. Like, we talked about Slamophobia, we talked about systemic racism, and for some reason, our current government plays it in a way that they are the only answer to all this, and we don't. And the community think that we don't hear a lot from the Conservative Party about these things. So I think we would want to know more about these things from the party, as you're here to find out that what we think. So we would want to know more that how the party would tackle Islamophobia, how the party would help us, in immigration or trade, or how to eliminate a systemic racism. And most importantly, community wants to know that how can they engage with the party.
Those are all very important points, and our whole Conservative team, from the leader on down, have been very vocal about condemning all forms of hatred, violence, discrimination, but doing more than that, proactively seeking to include and demonstrate that inclusion. There are different causes of violence and discrimination. I think we do need to tackle the hopelessness that a lot of people feel.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to say this is the only cause of discrimination, but I think when you have a sense in certain quarters just of kind of an economic and cultural hopelessness, that contributes to acting out in all kinds of different ways. So I think that's one thing we need to tackle, is to try to give people hope. And there's a bunch of economic policies, I think, that go into that, as well as a different approach to crime and the drug crisis we face. We want to emphasize treatment and recovery as the model, instead of so I think these kinds of things will help to address a crime and all different kinds of crimes. I think when it comes to hate crimes as well, we need to have be properly supporting our police, and we need to ensure that that there are appropriate penalties for serious crime as well.
What I want to come down to, because as you're saying, that I think the penalties are not serious enough. Like that's what a lot of people are thinking at this moment, that there's like a lot of repetitive crime, same criminals keep committing the same thing. I was hearing Poilievre the other day. He was talking about the same thing, that people are getting bailed 3 times a day. What's your take on that?
So I think that contributes to hate crimes and other kinds of crimes as well. A small number of people committing a very large amount of the crime. I believe in second chances. You know, I'm not sure the law should give people 50-second chances.
I totally agree with that.
So we should seek rehabilitation. But when we've got the same person, and often repeat violent offenses as well, we just have to take a different approach than the government is taking now. We need serious bail reform, and we need a criminal justice system that demands rehabilitation. And when people insist on repeating a pattern of crime, whether they're targeting minorities or targeting property or something else, then there have to be serious consequences that are going to prevent them from continuing to re-victimize the
because
community.
GTHA, like, we're suffering from crime. Like, car theft is on top. Like, people are literally knocking in your door and robbing people in their houses. Like, we have never heard of this thing in Toronto before. But I would say the last few years, like, it's like sky high. And there's no hope. At this moment, like, you talk to, like, law enforcement, they're like, I know a lot of people, when they lost their car, they call cops and they're like, 48 hours is gone. So like, how long are we going to live like that? Like, this is not what we want to live with.
We need to be the kind of country where crime does not pay and work does. Right? And people who are doing it right, trying to follow all the rules, trying to work to afford their first home, are increasingly feeling hopeless. And then meanwhile, you've got people that are committing repeat violent crimes and getting continually released on bail. So we need to get some common sense back in the system here.
Absolutely.
And I think that will help to address a pretty wide spectrum of crime. Become the kind of country where we're keeping that promise we've made to people when they were born here or when they came here from somewhere else, that if you work hard, if you play by the rules, you will be able to get ahead.
Absolutely. And that's the Canada we need, right? That's the Canada we want, and hopefully when you guys come in power, that's the Canada we'll have. Thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate it. It was informative.
Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your listeners. I'm easy to get a hold of if folks have specific questions, or if there are events coming up, people want to engage more with the Conservative Party, they want to find out more. To those who like the ideas I'm talking about, we want to hear more from you. Maybe folks will say, I like the Conservatives on 8 out of 10 issues, but I'm not so sure about the other 2. Well, we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you about those issues and reservations, and fundamentally we want to unite the country and bring back common sense.
Absolutely, and I really hope, and I know you guys will.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.